just to just give it a moment. What's happening? Why is that like this? I'm waiting for the host. Okay. Mapula. Mapula. Advocate Bonane. Advocate Bonane? I can't hear you.
Prof, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm good. Are you playing rugby there?
I wish I was, Chair, but I'm not good at it.
Oh, I see. Now I'm West. Now maybe you and I must go for lessons.
Now we will try and ask Honorable Bredenbach. Maybe she can give us some lessons.
Oh, Mapula, can Mapula play rugby? Mapula. She doesn't hear me. Mapula.
Hi, I can hear you. Sorry, I just couldn't unmute.
Oh,
How are you?
I learn you are a good rugby player.
Rugby player?
Or golf.
Golf, yes. Rugby, I've never played in my life. Golf, not bad.
Okay, no, Bonani and myself wants to be your students.
Oh, sure. Come anytime you like. I love playing golf. I'm not terribly good, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah, otherwise I well.
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
No, I'm well.
That's good. I'm glad.
Advocate Ramanu?
Yes, Chair.
Do we have enough people to proceed with the meeting?
Let me just check, Chair.
Okay.
Not yet, Chair.
Are there any apologies that you see already?
At the moment, I have one from Mr. Wayne Three.
Okay. So let's wait for some 5 minutes and see what's happening. So will you just tell me when we are ready? Yeah?
I'll do so, Chair.
Okay. Did you take any notebook from me? I haven't taken it.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm reformatting everything on this laptop. The one that I must bring to you. So I wanted to know what other programs you need so that I download them now. Where you want where and what? So send me a WhatsApp of all of them, then I'm gonna download them now as soon as I'm done. Okay. I'll make it office ready. I don't think we're gonna cut that side.
Oh,
It's doing.
she says?
She wanted to know if we're gonna go.
No.
No.
Prof. Prof. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, yes, I have.
Yes, yeah, we can start now.
Oh, wonderful. Honorable members,
Recording in progress.
members of the media, you are most welcome to this meeting. And I also just want to thank you because however short a notice you are given to attend this meeting, you are here timeously and make sure that our work proceed smoothly. And that testifies eloquently to your patriotic consciousness. But in opening this meeting, let me say first that we have two items on the agenda. The one item is the consideration of the report based on the submissions made between July and August 13th. 3, to look at the bill, revised bill based on those reports. And I must hasten to say that the idea is not that we discuss that revised bill and take any decisions, because what has appeared is that political parties will need further mandates to engage with that. And given the fact that the lifespan of the committee is expiring, we'll have to consider whether or not we should not request a further extension, because on our side, we have done everything possible, but compliance with the rules of parliament indicates that we cannot finish the work, and that is something beyond our powers. But let me say by opening that the National Assembly bestowed a great honor on all of us by appointing us to serve on this committee. The work of this committee must be conducted in terms of the rules of parliament, the constitution, and the law. The lifespan of our committee comes to an end on Monday, August 30th. I have pleasure to inform the people of South Africa that this committee discharged its duties and responsibilities loyally and diligently, and have done everything to the best of their abilities to finalize the amendment. The National Assembly was kind enough to give us extension until August 30th. Through no fault of this committee, we find ourselves unable to finish our work because some parties did not have mandates to address certain aspects of the bill. For instance, section 25(7). In the advert that was issued in July, we called for comments on subsections 1 to 5 and did not include 7. And therefore, it was not possible for parties to deal with that subsection. We also had not dealt with the question of communal land, which require consultation with the National House of Traditional Leaders. As a result, we called for submissions which excluded the cutoff date of June 1913, the question of communal land, and the question of participation in ownership versus co-participation by virtue of being a productive user of the land. The consideration of these outstanding questions requires that parties must seek mandates from their principals. On the basis of the submissions made on or before 13th August, the Management Committee mandated the Parliamentary Legal Services to produce a revised bill, including the outstanding issues which require consultation with the party principals. The revised bill we are presenting to you has certainly demonstrated that the people, not ourselves, are the final arbiter in this constitution-making process. Where we were not able to find common ground, the people have helped us to do so. Now I'm more confident than ever before that if Parliament can grant us a further extension of about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to allow parties to consult and to allow us to comply with the rules of Parliament governing this process, we shall reach consensus and pass the 18th Amendment Bill. It will be only people who put their ideological and party political interests above the interests and the will of the people of South Africa, both black and white, who will not support this amendment. In dealing with this amendment, we must bear in mind that the passage of this amendment to speed up land reform is a condition precedent for addressing the deepening moral degeneration and social ills, and for the much needed social and economic recovery, without which our country will be plunged into the war of all against all in competition for scarce resources. I would like to appeal to your patriotic consciousness to cooperate with one another and with the management of this committee to ensure that we pass this bill to give the people of South Africa a new hope despite the COVID-19 and GBV pandemics. And I want to do something that I should actually be doing at the end. There were doubts amongst some of us that the Parliamentary Legal Services were not loyal to the decisions of this committee, the MANCO and leadership. The MANCO and leadership of Parliament looked into these matters and came to a firm determination that the Parliamentary Legal Services and the administration are loyal to this committee, and they have gone out of their way to ensure that our decisions are implemented. But we have to bear in mind that the Parliamentary Legal Services and the advocates in the administration are professional people who have professional integrity, and they are people who have to uphold the law and the Constitution and to give us advice, not to please us, but advice which is based on the Constitution and the law. And Dr. Gwanya, I want to say to you that you have provided quality and hands-on leadership in this process. And through you, I want to also say that Advocate Charmaine van der Merwe, Advocate Taylor Halley, Advocate Bonani Ramano, Advocate Pilot Gwebu, among other people, have actually provided excellent contributions. And if anything goes wrong, it will not be because of the administration or the Parliamentary Legal Services. They are up to adequate to their task. So the primary object of this meeting today is threefold. One, it was to table the report on the submissions which were made from July to August 13. Two, to table a draft bill based on this report. This obviously for noting, because it is meant to assist members to go back to their party principles to seek fresh mandates. And lastly, to receive a report on whether our process has to date complied with the letter and spirit of parliamentary rules, the Constitution, and the law. So this should not be a long meeting because it really, there are matters, the substantive matters facing us are such that we cannot take them forward because they require consultation with the party principals. So having said that, and I hope that we are at one as to why we are here today. And then I will, I see two hands, Mapula, Advocate Bredenbach, and then Dr. Mulder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I've listened carefully to all the things that you've placed on record. I cannot possibly agree with everything you've said. And I'd like to place on record that this committee has not sat since the 14th of July. We're now at the end of August and close to the deadline for our lifespan. At this 99th hour, the ANC has chosen to submit a request to Parliament for calling for an extension of this committee's lifespan. This is a unilateral decision taken without any discussion with any of the other parties present in this committee, which is regrettable. Our mandate was due to expire on the 30th of August. And at the moment, the National Assembly is dealing with the request for an extension, and I'm given to understand that there will be a 2-week extension, and I really think that that should be the end of it. There's nothing that we still need to deal with that cannot be finalized in 2 weeks. And I think we should make every effort to finalize it in 2 weeks. The Democratic Alliance holds the view that this constant moving of the goalpost, this constant postponing the lifespan of this committee is simply because the ANC and the EFF know that they're not going to get a 2/3 majority. They're not going to get the votes that they require to pass this amendment, because this amendment is stillborn and dead in the water. And you're postponing the inevitable. So I really do hope that this is the last extension, that this committee will then come to an end as it should, that this attempt, stillborn as it is, will also come to an end so that we can then get on with the real work of a proper land redistribution policy, work together in some fashion to make sure that that happens in a fair and equitable manner. But this committee is not going to give rise to such a fair and equitable process in our view. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mapula. Let me just, for the sake of all of us, put it on record that the request for postponement did not come from the ANC or the EFF. It came from the management committee, bearing in mind the good advice that we received from the parliamentary legal staff, that the new issues that have arisen, which we are obliged by law to deal with, require some time. And therefore, I put my own head as chairperson of that management committee on the block, that we were not influenced by anybody outside the management committee and the committee. We were influenced by the requirements of the parliamentary rules. Thank you very much. But thank you very much for your positive approach to this matter. And I want to agree with you that actually we should have no further excuses not to proceed and conclude this work, and that we should work together to address the land question in the best interest of the people of South Africa. Honorable Dr. Melda.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you for the opportunity. I've listened to what you have said. The more we continue this process, the more it feels to me like we're in quicksand. We're just getting deeper into problems and deeper into trouble. Let me try to understand what you've said. First of all, you've given a summary or some introduction in terms of your perception of what we are busy with. I really think it's unfortunate that I don't think anyone can say that those who do not support what is now on the table are not loyal South Africans, or they don't have the best interest of the country on their hearts, and that they do not try to give expression to the will of our people. Maybe we should have a debate of what it means, the people. I think there are different interpretations of that. So I just want some clarity now, Chairperson, where we are at the moment. If I remember correctly, we started off with a motion from the House right in the beginning. My view is that we are clearly outside the mandate of that motion, because in that motion there was a proposal by the EFF that we should deal with custodianship, but the ANC then amended that motion, and the whole idea of custodianship was removed from the motion that was adopted by Parliament right at the beginning, that are the basis for our whole process. So now here at the end, the EFF obviously brought back their idea of custodianship, and it was put into this current, or not even the current, the second draft bill. In terms of the process, I'm a little bit confused. Then after we started with the motion, after that motion that was adopted, at some stage we adopted a compromise bill, and we had public hearings on that, and we went through the whole process of public participation, and we came back. And then we interacted with one another, and parties were allowed to put their positions on the table, and all parties had the opportunity to get clear mandates from their principles. We all did that. We all went back to our mandates. The ruling party, all the different parties got mandates. We discussed that in the committee, and then decisions were taken. And the ANC then proposed their amendments, and they adopted them with the ANC's majority, and all the other parties voted against those amendments. That was then put into a second draft bill, and that was published on the 13th of August. Earlier, and there were time to give comments on that until the 13th of August. That was the second draft bill being published. And then nothing happened. And now we've got the meeting today. And if I understand correctly now, I'm informed, or we are all informed, that the inputs were received from the public. And somehow there was an extrapolation done from the inputs that were received. And mandate was given to legal services to draft a third bill, a third one. And it seems that that third one deals with one or two issues that comes out of some of the proposals and some of the reaction on the second bill. Now, obviously, there were no public participation with regard to this third bill that we now seem to have on the table. It also seems that it must have been quite selectively decided which issues needs to be addressed and needs to be put into the third bill. Because obviously people that made representation with regard to the second bill were not aware that others would make representations with regard to certain issues that are now included into a third draft. So obviously it's a selective process, with all due respect, Chairperson. Some of the people who reacted and made representations on the second bill were not aware that there's now an attempt for a third draft. And that third draft now deals with certain things. I think it wants to move the date back from 1913 to 1800 or something, which is quite an interesting notion. The Boer republics are then up for grabs once again because they existed before, after the 1800s. So that will be an interesting discussion on its own. The fact of the matter is, Chairperson, that we are really going down in... The only reason why we need new mandates now is because there's suddenly a third draft. And that, as I've pointed out, that third draft, it seems to me, is a one-sided affair where someone decided that one or two issues that came from one or two of the representations or the commentaries should be included, and a further draft should be on that. Now, the question is, are we going to have public participation on the third draft? Or are we not going to consult the public in that respect, if we want to do that again? All those that did make representation were not aware that there's going to be a further draft. They were asked to express themselves on the second draft, on which there were absolute clear mandates. And the ruling party used its majority to get that into a second bill. Now, as pointed out correctly by the Honourable Breitenbach, we had a discussion this morning in the programming committee. It was agreed amongst parties that an extension will be granted for a further 2 weeks. And that's where we are basically. Many of those parties that made representations from outside asked to give oral evidence. We can ignore that, that's fine. But if we're now going to deal with a third draft, it's a question of, it opens a number of questions. That's just as an introduction. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Murada. Let me...
Chair?
Yes.
Chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Honorable Gunmede?
Yes. May I make a contribution here?
Mm-hmm.
It is at times a situation where if one wants to deal with the committee not along the party lines, that is being construed as if it's an ANC decision. I want to understand, Chair, that when do we have a kind of a proactive chair or a proactive member? I wouldn't like to say other members, for instance, are preview of the information that we don't have. For instance, if you put an extension, other members, they already know. Other members have already agreed. It's the first time I'm hearing that it has been granted, an extension has been granted for 2 weeks. If that chair, it was coincidentally raised by you as chair, it was going to be interpreted as if it's an ANC that has made its own choice. I think I heard you, Chair, saying that this was not a decision by the committee that we have an extension. And I don't remember as well that as a committee, we once discussed an extension as a committee, which I want to believe we don't need to accuse each other here of the decision that does not belong to us. It's not for the ANC, it's not for the DA, it's not for the Freedom Front Plus. But it happened the way, from our understanding, it happened the way it happened. Some other things we don't achieve because we stand by the side and look how other people behave, and then we start criticizing. If Chair, I've got a correct understanding, we last met when we were to do the advert, and we all knew that between that period, I think it was a period of 3 weeks, we were to wait for the outcome, which the deadline, if I'm not wrong, is that the deadline was on the 13th. And legal services has been kind of proactive in making all these preparations that you are calling for, Chair, as the agenda for the day, which in fact it's an update that since we last met, it was advertised, and after the advert, responses were received. After those responses, then the legal service prepared the report, which then will be presented before us today. And that report, which in fact will be the implications of such responses, and then such responses have then given birth to the bill and many other things. So what the committee is considering today is, out of the consequences, which are the outcomes of the responses, is for us then to consider, if we say we don't need that third bill, it is the decision of a committee. If we say we don't see fit that we need an extension, then it's for us. The only thing that perhaps one may say is, could be the report, because if we say we don't need all these other things, we disregard the reports, which are the feedback from the adverts, which we all agreed. Then we should be saying then to the legal service, prepare us a report that will have to be tabled before Parliament, because that's the thing that we need. It's a report that is to be tabled before Parliament. And then in our last meeting, we were saying that report will be determining the closure or the end of the term for this committee. So I'm sure the legal service has the capacity that between today, tomorrow, and over the weekend until Monday, which is the last day, that report, I'm sure, can be in place, which again will be tabled in Parliament. So at this stage, Chair, I'm saying there is no one who is wrong here. It's only that there have been circumstances, events that have come up, and in considering time, legal services were proactive enough to prepare. I just want you, Chair, to imagine if reports, the responses came and legal services just sat and do nothing. We would be mandating them today to say, you go and do da, 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 which in fact will be far-fetched from our term of office. So I'm saying, Chair, I want to beg the indulgence of a DA and a Freedom Front that at this time, we seek their honest guidance. We seek, a kind of a common view so that we conclude, we take whether the 2/3 is obtained or it's not obtained. I think that will be determined later when we go to Parliament and we perhaps present and we vote. So all that I'm saying, Chair, your opening, it's okay. And perhaps the comments has in fact enlightened us that there is quite a lot that we don't know, which we thought we know. I did not know about the 2 weeks that has been given. Other people are preview, they've got that. We can't then accuse them because they were discussing at that stage. If legal services was aware of this, thanks to the legal service then for being so proactive, and thanks to you, Chair, if ever there is any step you would have taken as the chair of the committee, rather than you sit down as the chair. I think if people have got decency to say thank you, we have never met on Thursday, Chair. And bear in mind that in fact we missed the plenary meeting because of the commitment we have. Your commitment to call the meeting so that you appraise the committee is being taken as if it's a party thing. I don't want to believe it's a party thing. But all what I'm saying for you, Chair, thank you very much. Don't be scared of all these things. Don't be tired. But we still encourage the A and the FF Plus to support the process, not to support the ANC. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Gumede. Honorable Milder, for me at this stage, I'm not interested in a two-horse race. I'm not interested in the ANC and in the EFF. I'm interested in what is in the best interest of the people of South Africa as a whole, both black and white. And it is my wish that all political parties, including the EFF and the ANC, will for a while put aside their ideological positions and their party political interest and put the best interest of the people of South Africa on the agenda and seek to work with other parties, however small, to find a solution that will be in the best interest of the people of South Africa. As chairperson of this committee, I'm the custodian of the deliberations, decisions of the committee. And I know what was agreed and what was not agreed before. So I do not adopt a selective approach in dealing with this matter. I isolated on the basis of the report that was prepared by legal services to see which are the critical issues that require further consideration. And I found that it is not even state custodianship, because the overwhelming opinion is that the people have not had an opportunity to own land from the 1800s. People want ownership. And therefore, there's no way you can convince the people of South Africa that the state must own everything, all the land. And we have a recent experience of the Ngonyama Trust, where the king held the land and leased them out, and the court turned that down. Now, if you take the whole of South Africa and give it to the states, and the people will still go to court and say, no, we want to own the land. And some of them will even prove that, in fact, they own the land, it was taken away from them. So the state custodianship, as initially proposed, has not been accepted by the people. And what is acceptable, and that is reflected in the bill, is that the expropriating authority must have custody of the expropriated land pending the redistribution of that land to make it available, equitable, available to the people. So for me, this question of state custodianship, I have no doubt that even the EFF themselves will be persuaded that their concept of state custodianship is not practicable, is not acceptable to the people, and I want to believe that they will respect the will of the people. And on the question that you are raising, I think of the Boer republics are up for grab. I think you will remember that it is the Boers themselves who agreed with the British that the Boer republic should come to an end. The whole territory of South Africa is part of the British Empire, and so on. And the Boers and the British developed the land policies together. So I don't see where the Boer republics comes into play. But I'm happy that you said that matter is a discussion for another day. Luckily, we have this 2 weeks that has been granted to us. But I want to fully agree with the Honorable Gumede. And Honorable Gumede, I can tell you that I also did not know that we have been given extension for 2 weeks. And that's why I was saying in my opening remark that if we could be given an extension of 2 to 3 weeks, I'm confident we can conclude the work. I'm very happy that the Parliament, through the programming committee, has provided leadership in this way. I guess because we report frequently to Parliament through the office of the Chair of Chairs, Honorable Frolick, that Parliament is aware of what we are doing, and they exercise their own mind and came to the determination that we deserve an extension for 2 weeks. And it was not the ANC, it was not me, I did not even know. I was coming to propose to this committee that we approach Parliament to grant us an extension. Now, Parliament has already done that. And the programming committee, as an organ of Parliament, is higher than all of us. It's superior to the ad hoc committee. So the ad hoc committee has no authority to reverse the decision of the programming committee. So we have to accept that we have an extension, and that therefore we have to strive to finalize, to reach consensus and pass the bill. And for that reason, we cannot have another route to say, let's wind up the work by Monday and submit the report to Parliament, because Parliament wants us to find a solution. And I'm very confident that a solution can and should be found. But the administration has already started doing the report. They finished the report on the submissions of July to March or to August. It is before you, and then they have done a draft bill which is before you, and that draft bill is really for noting, and it will be used as a basis for consultation with our principals. And I think, to borrow the words of Honorable Mrwatsela in the previous meetings, that this process is a give and take process. And therefore, we have 2 weeks during which that give and take should happen. And I have no doubt in my mind that all patriotic, I repeat, all patriotic members of this committee will find that there is nothing that stands in the way of finding a solution, and we must find a solution, because it will be a sad day if we can't find that solution, because the challenges facing our country are huge, and they are such that if we, the democratically elected representative, can't find the solutions, it would mean that we are not, as this parliament, adequate to our task, and therefore we don't deserve to be existing and calling ourselves honorable members. But let me conclude by saying that Parliament has taken a decision to extend the lifespan for 2 weeks, and that the submissions that have been sent are very clear, they are very helpful, and the draft bill that has been produced is very helpful. And I will appeal to all of you to take the draft bill, go back to your principals over this weekend, and then consult, because from Tuesday next week, we will be meeting regularly and for a long time to find a solution, and that solution must be found. Honorable Mrwatsela. Honorable Mrwatsela.
Chairperson, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all members on this all-important platform. The platform mandated to address this pertinent issue, which is a matter of serious concern to all South Africans. Chairperson, on behalf of the African National Congress, we want to accept the notion that you are bringing forward, that our lifespan has been extended by the least 2 weeks. And I believe at the same time, one would love to persuade honorable members on this platform, regardless of the political party they belong to, that we have been given a lifespan for 2 weeks. And these 2 weeks, if maximally utilized, Chairperson, it is a 2 weeks which can bring with it wonders. I'm talking about wonders because it will be a moment of glory wherein our sons and daughters will come and look at us, Honorable Chairperson, and say, we once had a mandate and our fathers and the mothers delivered on that very mandate. Chairperson, I'm a little bit jittery and worried. Worried because it appears, from what I heard, especially, let me mention it, from the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, it appears as though to them, they wanted us to conclude things just abruptly, even without making a good sense into it, so that if our lifespan was to end come this coming Monday, they would throw a party of some kind. I do not have a single doubt, Chairperson, standing where I am, that we have got an opportunity still to find each other. What is important is not a particular political party's view, but what is important is the provision of the solution to what is a matter of concern to all South Africans, not a particular political grouping. I normally would say to other people, they would sound like as if they are the prophet of doom, people who would think that even if we have been given a lifespan of 2 weeks more, still we will not be able to agree. None of us on this platform is a prophet. And I believe honorable members of the platform are cautious enough that whatever is going to be very important is when we each of us find each other, not only for ourselves now, but for our children in the future to come. Thank you very much, Chairperson. The 2 weeks given can make wonders. And I'm optimistic that these 2 weeks is going to make wonders because it is about South Africa and not about a particular political grouping. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Rosetta. I see another, that hand has disappeared. Honorable Melda, you asked a question which I did not answer. Can you hear me? Honorable Melda?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm at my post. All ears, listening.
Wonderful. You wanted to know whether there's going to be any public hearings on this. I think that you were in the programming committee. I was not there. All I know is that we are given 2 weeks, and I will consult with the parliamentary legal staff to see whether it is possible to invite further comments on this, or whether this is just for the political parties themselves to engage. My immediate of the cuff feeling is that basically there is nothing that requires the public here, because it was the political parties that said they didn't have a mandate. But that is my lay opinion. I will consult with the parliamentary legal services, but because they are here, maybe they may even be able to throw some light now. Honorable Mahlatsi? Honorable Mahlatsi?
Thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to make an input, but I will just land here to allow the legal services to respond and then come after they have responded. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Advocate Charmaine, are you there?
Chairperson, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the members.
Yes.
Chairperson,
for now, I would want just to deal with this question that Honorable Melda raised, whether we are going to advertise and call for submissions on these questions that we have identified or not.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the draft bill before the committee is not a final document. The members will first have to decide on whether those amendments are acceptable to the committee. And if the committee decides that, and there's 2 specific amendments, that of the change to subsection 7, the change of 1913 date to 1800, as well as the exclusion of communal land. Those 2 amendments will have to be submitted to the public again. It will also be referred to the National House of Traditional Leaders by the joint tagging mechanism. We will have to call the departments and ask comments from the provincial legislatures, because those 2 amendments are material amendments. The other proposals to the bill are more just inputs from the public for clarification, to make the bill a bit, maybe some sentences read better, and so on. Those amendments we do not need to go back to the public for. It is only the issue of 1913 and the communal land. But like I say, it is first something that draft 3 first has to be adopted by the committee before we can start such a process. Thank you, Chair.
You know, I'm sure you heard that the extension did not come from us. Now, I just wanted to know whether in deciding on 2 weeks, the Parliamentary Programming Committee was advised that further work would need the process that we are talking about, because if they are aware, they were aware, it would mean that the time frames are actually not reasonable.
Yes, Chair. Chair, in fact, the order paper that was circulated this morning had a request in for 5 November, an extension to 5 November. However, I must be honest with the Chair. I don't think that even that extension took into account that there might be further amendments. Remember that there's no decision yet in respect of further amendments. It is a proposal that is still before this committee to be considered. But I know that there was a proposal to be up to 5 November, and then the National Assembly Programming Committee discussed this matter. There were some concerns raised by members saying that the committee is almost done with its work, and I think it was based on that premise that the decision was in the end that it should be limited to a 2 weeks period. So in other words, the National Assembly Programming Committee considered what the current process. But Chairperson, if the committee takes a decision that further amendments are necessary, then this is simply something that will have to be reported to the House. I don't even know if it is a report as such that is required, but at that point in time, if the committee then indicates, look, because of public inputs, there is a decision to make 2 material amendments to the bill, these need to follow a new process, and accordingly, this is the new date that we're looking at, then that is something that the Assembly will consider at that stage. I do not know if they can consider the possibility of amendments at this stage. I think that has to be a firm decision from the committee, and then they will consider that for a further period of extension.
Okay, that's fine. You know, so that we are all at one, can you just give us a pager of that explanation?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. Okay, please. Advocate Dibulelo, Honorable Member Dibulelo.
Thank you, Chairperson,
I'm encouraging you to study law because you have a
definitely
legal mind.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And let me also appreciate the explanation by Advocate Van der Merwe. However, I would want to make this input in line with what we are dealing with at this current point, and also try to provide some way forward because we can't be stuck on this issue. First and foremost, Chair, much as we might have received these documents prior to this meeting, however, we are interfacing with the discussion for the first time in the committee. Therefore, the proactiveness of the legal services in as far as developing the third draft was meant for us to come and discuss to check whether, as members of parliament or members of this particular committee, are we in agreement with what needs to happen. However, my expectation in relation to this meeting was to at least receive a report from legal services, providing us with the responses in relation to the process that we have undertaken of public participation. And thereafter, unpacking critical issues that might have emanated from that particular process, which might later have subsequent to that, led to the third draft. That was my expectation in as far as this meeting is concerned. Now, given that we are interfacing with these documents here, and the fact that we've got another meeting on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, is it tomorrow, that we note the third draft and go back and seek mandates from our political parties if there is a need to accept the third draft, or rather conclude on the actual draft that was sent for public participation. So in that sent statement, I therefore request that we conclude this meeting by saying, let's take this document for noting, go and consult further if there is a need, because some of us might not have been given mandates to deal with subsection 7 in the manner in which it has been provided for in the third draft, so that we are able to agree in principle whether the work in terms of section 25 has been finalized based on the second draft that has been taken out for public participation. Because if programming committee has indeed taken into consideration the work that we have done and has concluded that we are left with 2 weeks, that means we would therefore not necessarily have to request extension beyond what we have currently. But most probably, given that we've got 2 weeks, that means we can still have a meeting to conclude whether we need a further extension based on the third draft that has been given to us, though not presented. Therefore, I want to plead with honorable members that we take that route rather than discussing this issue further, precisely because some political parties might not necessarily have mandates to deal with subsection 7. Thank you very much.
Honorable Matsatsi, your approach is understandable. That actually today we should be looking at the reports, unpacking it, and seeing what are the issues. But the duty of leaders is also to lead, subject to consultation. Given the ending of our time span, the process that you are outlining, which is correct, would not be practicable. And therefore, it was not the parliamentary legal staff that decided to come up with a bill. The MENCO, after listening to their report of the submissions, suggested to them that they must go and produce a draft bill informed by the report, which draft bill is subject to consideration by this committee for acceptance or rejection. And therefore, I agree with you that we shouldn't entertain the substance of the bill today. And that's why when I opened, I said the purpose of tabling this draft bill is to aid the consultative processes between yourselves and your party principals. And therefore, I want to propose that we don't meet tomorrow. Instead, we give all political parties tomorrow, Friday, until Monday, end of business, to go and do the consultations on the draft bill and on whether or not we want to say we won't go back to the advert way, we will conclude amongst ourselves. So I think if we go that route, by the end of business on Monday, all political parties will have consulted with our principals, and then on Tuesday, we have a meeting where parties will make inputs based on their mandates, and therefore will be able to take decisions on the draft bill that is before us, whether or not we are going to entertain the new substantive clauses or not. But from me, as the chair, I just want to place it on record that if we are not going to attend these matters, we will be committing suicide ourselves, because we will actually be saying what the people are saying does not matter. And we will therefore be violating the Constitution, which makes public participation mandatory. And therefore, we will not have been failed by anybody. We will have failed ourselves, because the Constitution, the rules of Parliament are the creatures of ourselves, and they did not create us. But after creating them, we must respect them, because there has to be order. If we don't respect the law, the Constitution, and the rules, then there can't be order. So can we agree with you, but on condition that tomorrow we don't meet? From tomorrow to Monday evening, all parties must go and consult. Tuesday we meet and we receive inputs on those consultations. And if your principals say they don't want to proceed with this thing as it is proposed, then it's fine, because they will take responsibility for what happens. And they can't blame us to say we were irresponsible, we did not advise them. And I think we are well advised by the Parliamentary Legal Service Committee. And I want to, unless anybody wants to say something, I want to say that I'm happy with what we have done, but I want to request all of you to make sure that you have the copy of a report titled Report of the Ad hoc Committee to Initiate and Introduce Legislation Amending Section 25 of the Constitution on Public Participation. Second call for submissions from July to 13 August. And it is on the basis of that report that the revised bill was drafted. So when you go to consult, please have the two documents with you, so that your principals can know what informed the draft bill. But Parliamentary Legal Services, I assured them that I myself will put my head on the block. They must go and produce it. They did not produce it out of their heads. They produced it out of the report of the submissions. So, honorable members, I think we have a way forward. We'll meet again on Tuesday.
Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Kumade.
May I make two recommendations?
Yes.
One, I think because the time is now too tight, we need a very clear program that says these are the things that we need to do until the end of the day, and we try and not deviate from such a program. If Chair proposes that we are meeting on Tuesday, yes, let it then start on Tuesday. If we meet again Thursday, Friday, whatever, we do that. I'm saying that, Chair, because it looks as if we're a little bit dicey, in a sense where we are not sure whether 2 weeks is okay or not okay. Because I think with the legal service was saying we need 3 weeks. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are given 2 weeks. So 3 versus 2 may not be enough. It depends on what those other people that proposed, what information was available before then. So one, what I'm proposing is the program and the thorough assessment, whether the time is okay, not okay. But in formulating that program, I would recommend so that we have a political wing as well accommodated, that we include the chair and the whip and then legal service to come up with that program, which in fact will be presented on Tuesday, as we are saying. That's one. Chair, again, I thought we're going, as much as I agree with the recommendation that let's give an opportunity that from whether tomorrow up until Tuesday, parties consult their principles in terms of the bill. But I wanted to suggest, Chair, that can't we steal hours tomorrow, 1 or 2, and be given a full presentation of the report back from the publications, because we still need that. I'm not sure whether, Chair, you were saying we will do all that on Tuesday, but it would have been, because all members are really aware that we were to meet on Friday. If we can take that and just do only the presentation on the responses, so that we know the dynamics, what informs the bill that the members are to consult with to their principals. I think then that will really help us. So I'm just making those 2 recommendations, Chair. If you see them fit, I'll be happy.
I want to agree with you, hoping other members would agree. But then let's proceed tomorrow for the purpose of formally receiving the report and hearing from legal services how the revised bill was informed by the report, so that for record purposes, then we will have closed an important gap. And secondly, I want to agree with you on the program, that why then we have a meeting on Tuesday afternoon and the management committee meets in the morning to prepare the program, and then isuke maphepha. So I agree with you, subject to those modifications. Honorable members, we are meeting tomorrow. The agenda is to formal tabling of the report from the submissions, engagement therewith, and then the tabling of the draft revised bill, engagement with it. And when that is done, it means that as the committee, we will be comfortable to say, let's take these documents to our principals for further consultations. And then the next meeting will be on Tuesday afternoon. Thank you very much. Agreed?
Viva, Chair, viva!
Thank you, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Recording stopped.